To me, nothing quite signifies summer, besides the tomato, maybe, as the pumpkin, the squash, the whole cucurbit family. They're amazing plants to grow in summer. They are lush, big, green, yellow, have amazing fruits that can last, that can provide through the whole of summer, push through into winter as well. However, they do have one very, very big and pesky problem, and that is the pumpkin fly, also quite often referred to as the fruit fly. I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. I'm particularly referring to the pumpkin fly, but sometimes the fruit fly can also get involved. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through some of the preventative measures to be able to save some of your harvest, because I know how incredibly frustrating it can be to grow beautiful plants like this behind me, see the fruits come and they just get stung, and you open them and they're filled with little maggots. So let's have a look and see what your options are to make sure that you get a harvest. So as we take a look at this beautiful sprawling spaghetti squash in front of me, you can immediately see one of the measures you can have in place. But to be able to use this specific measure, you have to deploy it as early as possible in spring. And that is this little guy in front here. The pumpkin fly trap uses a hormone or a ferrolure which attracts the female pumpkin flies. The female pumpkin flies are the ones that actually sting the fruits and lay the eggs which turn into the larvae. And those larvae are then the little bugs that get down, start munching on the inside of your cucurbits, squash, pumpkins, whatever you're busy growing, and then ultimately destroy your plant. So your very, very first preventative measure is to make sure that you have a pumpkin fly trap in place, so that when the new larvae hatch in spring, they come out, they're attracted to the hormones and the lure, they climb inside, they can't get out, there's a little bit of soapy water at the bottom, and they end up drowning. In my view, that is pretty much the only thing you can do early in spring. I personally don't like the other options like sticky paper and things like that, because you end up catching a whole bunch of stuff you shouldn't be necessarily catching. So the pumpkin fly trap for me is the best thing you can do in spring to start reducing those numbers. However, it is not going to solve the problem. Just remember that if you buy pumpkin fly traps, you are going to still have pumpkin flies in your garden. You're just not going to have as many, which allows you to be able to get into some of the techniques I'm going to show you now before they actually get to the fruits. Then your second option is organza bags. I find organza bags to be probably the best preventative measure against pumpkin flies stinging your young fruit. However, for this to be effective, I always double bag them, because the little stingers can still get through the small little holes in organza bags. However, the stingers are so short that if you have a tiny little gap between the fruit and the organza bag, the stinger can't actually reach the fruit. And if you double bag them like this, you can see there's always a gap between the top, second layer, and then ultimately the little fruit at the bottom. This I put onto the fruits as soon as they flower. So when the female flower opens, I take a male flower, pollinate it, and as soon as that's pollinated, I put this over. So when the fruit is, I would say, 1 or 2 centimeters big, it has just flowered, just been pollinated, then I bag it up like this. Then I wait until the fruit is about 3/4 the size of the bag, which I'm actually going to show you now. And then what we do is we transfer it into a stocking. For the sake of display, I'm going to show you what you actually need to do. So this is what the fruit will ultimately look like. Then it will have a little flower at the end. You literally take the bag, put it over, and then you pull the 2 sides. Don't tie it too tight. Remember, it is going to grow, it is going to expand, so make sure you're not busy choking it. The fruit flies won't fly into the little top opening, so you don't need to worry about that. Then I just simply slide over the second bag and then very, very roughly close that too. You can see now we've got a double bag. no pumpkin fly is going to be able to sting this. And then as soon as this gets bigger, we're going to move it into a stocking. See, here we have a beautiful example of a spaghetti squash that is matured into the bag. It's not a mature fruit yet, but it is now at the point where I need to change from an organza bag to a stocking. This one I didn't double bag, I actually forgot, but I can see that there are no stings on this fruit. I'm going to show you in detail quickly as well, but basically this guy at the back here I've left to show you has been stung multiple times, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Basically, to upgrade your little protective system, you're going to need a pair of old stockings. These are my daughter's that she's no longer using. Depending on what you want to do, I'm just going to use a wooden clothes peg. I can reuse it and then throw it in the bin or compost pile when I'm done. Scissors to cut. Basically, what you're going to do is you need to decide ultimately what the final size of the fruit is going to be. So I'm going to take this size and double it. So I'm going to take off just this much of the stocking to cut it. And then the closed side is where the feet are. If you're using the leg of the stocking, then you'd obviously take where the foot is here and you would just tie a knot in it at the end. So then you've still got a closed stocking at the one end. And then the other end, we're going to, I'll show you now, basically bundle it up over the stem. And then we will take the clothing peg and just wrap it around. And this is where the stem of the fruit will then go in. You can see nothing can really get in or out. The fruit has more than enough room to grow. The stocking can stretch this way. The stocking can stretch this way. The color will also put the pumpkin flies off because they're looking for predominantly orange and yellow fruits. So if you use blue, black, anything really besides yellow, which I don't know how many yellow stockings are going around, then you'll also be helping reduce exposure immediately. So then all we're going to do is we're going to take this, open it up, slide it out, this one was actually a little bit too big before removing, but there you can see came off really nicely. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the stocking, slide it over, give it more than enough room, and then at the top you can see all the excess stocking here. I'm just going to twist it up so it closes nice and tight. Put the clothing peg around it, and there your top is closed. It's never throttling the stem of the plant. You've tied up the base. You don't even need to tie it up in this instance because I'm using the foot, but basically there's the end of the fruit, there's the end of the stocking, and it can still stretch. More than enough room for this plant to now go and do what it needs to do. Put it down and that's it. You now have multiple layers of protection to guarantee that you are going to be getting some fruit from your cucurbit or pumpkin harvest this summer. So now what I want to do is I actually want to show you what stung fruit looks like if a pumpkin fly gets hold of it. I've purposefully left this one to show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm cut it off. You can see it's a nice sized fruit and it's still got room to grow. But you can see all of these sting spots. This one's busy oozing and some of the maggots are actually busy coming out. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's a newly stung section over there. So this one little fruit that hasn't been covered has been stung, what I can see, a total of 7 times. Pretty much guaranteed that you are not going to be getting anything from this. However, depends on the fruit as well. This is a spaghetti squash and I quite enjoy this underripe. So when it's at this point, and I'll cut it open for you now so you can see, I find the green part of this to be really tasty. It's like a sweet cucumber. So it's another option for you. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut straight through this middle section, open it up for you so you can see, and there's the damage done. It's filled with little eggs. I squeeze it in there, there's lots of little larvae in there, and it's browned all the way into the middle. You'll see as these start growing and maturing, all of these little eggs and maggots are going to work their way into the middle, and they eat all the juicy, yummy parts in the middle here. So that's what happens with these fruits. You have a sting on the top, everything just happens underneath, and then they start going down and destroy the inside. However, this is completely edible. I'll cut these away, but this part of the fruit over here is super yummy. This specific one is the spaghetti squash, which you can eat green. Like I said, it's like a sweet cucumber. It's really, really nice. So this is not lost. However, it's not a spaghetti squash. So on the others, I'm going to wait until they mature to actually get the spaghetti squash, and then some of the other pumpkins are doing the same. But this we'll have for lunch as a nice fresh little snack. So I hope you are now equipped with the knowledge to be able to combat this pesky little pumpkin fly. It causes a huge amount of damage in a lot of gardens. It's probably, I would say, the #1 complaint I see across Facebook groups, a whole bunch of different gardening groups relating to squash, cucumbers, pumpkins, pretty much the whole cucurbit family is my fruits are getting stung. I've got maggots in my fruit. And this is ultimately what it is, the pesky pumpkin fly. So with a couple of small little measures that you can put in place, a little bit of diligence in the garden, a little bit of effort, you can make sure that you can get a nice harvest from your plants, including this little beast at the back here that's going to fill this trellis. I can rest assured that all of the fruit that is going to come hanging off this trellis from this pumpkin behind me, it's a beautiful little acorn pumpkin, is going to end up growing to full maturity because I'm going to organza bag it when they are pollinated, and then I'm going to stocking it to make sure that I can support them and protect them until they are ready to feed me and my family. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it among your communities. I know I'm not the only one struggling with it, and I know that you're not the only one struggling with it. So share it out. Let us all increase our chances of getting a harvest. Every little bit of knowledge gained and shared is going to help the gardening community as a whole. And please subscribe to my journey so that you can get more of these great tips and gardening and pieces of advice as I go down my journey. Until next time, happy gardening.